This is the white Christian nationalist narrative that God has specifically ordained white men, in particular, as stewards of this chosen land. And America is the chosen land, the special place where white men and white women and white families will help recreate the kingdom of God. And as such, it is their job to create a Christian nation where these young men will then blossom into kings and princes and be the servants of Jesus and the second coming of his kingdom. And the rest of us, we serve our purpose. We're laborers, we're workers. We get to rent a room in the house, Danielle. But we always have to know our place. And our place is second. They'll allow us. We should be grateful that we're in America. We should be grateful that we're not being shot. We should be grateful that we're not being kicked out. And whenever they speak like this, what they're telling you is know your place, boy. Know your rank. Know your place, woman. You have an ovary. You're subservient to the man, to the husband. And that is why we need a leader, an authoritarian, Donald Trump. Yes, he is going to be our redeemer. And so again and again and again, not all white women, folks. Again, that's why I gave you the numbers. It's a slim majority, but it's still a majority. This is why white women keep betraying so many people of color, and why so many people of color keep saying this is why we can't trust these suburban white women who smile and then come out with the Girl Scout cookies, but behind everyone's back, go vote for freaking Trump, the same guy who just got held liable for sexual battery and defamation. And at that town hall today that we're going to be watching, and again, this is going to come out.
I'm not watching. I just want folks to know that. I will watch clips that are posted on Twitter. I am not giving CNN any fucking rating.
I feel bad. Forgive me. I have to watch for Daily Beast because I have to do an article on it, but that's the only reason I'm watching. But I recommend not watching it. But we're going to see like pretty much every shade of whiteness in that 400-person town hall, and they'll probably pepper it, Danielle. There'll be some peppering. There'll be a black and a brown and an Asian there. But that's what we see. But speaking about white Christian nationalism, and you mentioned Tommy Tuberville, as we're recording this, this article just came out in the Rolling Stones that Tommy Tuberville, United States Senator from Alabama, former football coach, because the bar is very low, defended white nationalism during an interview with a local NPR affiliate just yesterday on Monday. When he said, what they call white nationalists, I call Americans. And he's critical of Joe Biden trying to root out white nationalists and white supremacist extremists from the military. He thinks it will destroy the military. But at the same time, Tommy Tuberville is the same senator who's putting a hold on military nominees, which pretty much every general, Danielle, and including as of today, Mitch McConnell himself has said is hurting our national security. That same guy said that Joe Biden is hurting our military by trying to root out white nationalists, whom he called Americans. Your thoughts, Danielle?
I mean, what does it say about the U.S. military when rooting out violent, fascist, white supremacists would somehow cripple our military, right? What does that say to you about our military? Which is, what we saw on January 6th play out in front of us. How many of those people were active and or retired military? How many of those people were active or retired law enforcement, right? This is their brotherhood. This is their clan. And so it's just amazing to see that they voted against Doug Jones in Alabama, a man that marched with Martin Luther King and wrote civil rights legislation, wasn't a pedophile.
And he barely beat Roy Moore. Thank you for reminding us that. Barely beat Roy Moore, the pedophile. And
this is who is in their Senate. And, when we say time and time again on this show and on many others that the Republican Party is not a party, it is a clan, it is a cult, it is a white supremacist safe zone. This is what we are talking about. Because the things that used to embarrass, that used to mean an end to your career, are now the things that the Republicans cheer for and celebrate. I remember when the biggest scandals were extramarital affairs. Now you can fuck hookers, sexually assault people, and you can still be the top Republican nominee.
That's right.
I mean, I just, the question that I have for you, Waj, and this is a question I keep asking, I'm asking it on Woke AF, I'm asking it with folks, is, do you think that America has jumped the shark so much that even if everything were to work in Democrats' favor in 2024 and beyond, that we're ever going to restore full integrity in our democracy and in this country, full faith, because of all of these destructive forces? And we'll get to George Santos in a minute, but all the ways in which our government, our Congress has been marred, our institutions have been marred by these grifters, these abusers, and these white supremacists.
I've said this before on the show, and I've said that what we're witnessing is the death rattle of white supremacy that has transformed into a death march, both here and in Europe. And white supremacy has always been the primary disease that has afflicted this country. But only now, in the year 2023, Danielle, we're finally talking about it. We're finally actually acknowledging it. We're finally actually naming it. In the Democratic primaries a couple of years ago, right before the 2020 election, that was the first time that Democrats were actually debating it, like literally 2020. All right. So talk about an endemic disease that has corrupted nearly every single institution, education, the military, law enforcement. A big piece of news last week that just went under the radar. It was news for like a couple hours. Prosecutors are saying, remember the former FBI agent who worked counterterrorism in the New York field office before leaving the bureau in 2017? He was at January 6th. In fact, he just got charged, and he was calling fellow police officers Nazis, and he illegally entered the Capitol. So to quote Rage Against the Machine, some of those who work forces are the same that burn crosses, right? And so we're witnessing what happens when this country tries to burn itself of the fever of white supremacy. And as we've said on this show, is that white supremacy is ultimately self-destructive. If they can't be in power, they will self-immolate. They will burn everything down, including themselves. And when I used to say this in 2017 and 2018 on CNN and other places, people used to stare at me like I was a crazy person. Like, oh, what do you mean? It's just the GOP. It's just Trump. It's just a few people. And we kept saying this is a radicalized, weaponized movement. MAGA has overtaken the GOP. This is going to escalate. After the election, I said Donald Trump won't leave. He didn't leave. I said Marjorie Taylor Greene is going to be the head and future of the party. She is. And y'all aren't paying attention. And we had to pay attention because this affects us. It affects our bodies. It affects our security. It affects our families. It affects our communities. So I think in our lifetime, whatever time we might have left, Danielle, we're going to see this type of cold, sometimes hot civil war, the fracturing of institutions, the need for reform, chaos, stochastic terrorism, small amounts of asymmetric warfare that pop up, Oath Boys, Oath Keepers, Proud Boys, neo-Nazis like in Texas. And we have to hold the fort. The majority has to come together. We have to build a multicultural coalition. I have always said, and the data keeps showing, that we have lost about 30% of this country. I don't think we're going to win them back, Danielle. I think they're in Earth 4. The 70% have to come together. And if the 70% of us can come together and maintain it as this fever rage breaks, then I do think you fast forward and the next generation, maybe not Gen Z, but maybe Gen Alpha, gets to inherit a country that is able to, I don't think completely remove it, Danielle, but to the point where we're no longer terrorized by it on a daily basis. That's my long arc.
It's incredible because I thought for a long time, right, that we were the generation that was eating the fruit of the civil rights movement, right? Of the blood that was literally shed into our soils, the lives that were lost, the generations that were lost. I thought that we were the ones that were eating that fruit. And now I look and I'm just like, oh shit, it's poisonous. right? And that now we're saying maybe not millennials, maybe not this, maybe not Gen Z, maybe it's Gen Alpha. And I don't know if it will even be them. I think that, it's funny when people say, when people cheat, right? They're like, the way you get them is the way you're going to lose them. And I think about our democracy in that same way. You formed a democratic nation on the backs and the blood and the tears and the sweat of enslaved people, indigenous people. Yeah. And somehow we think that without actually paying real penance for those sins, that somehow we're going to get to the other side, that the arc is going to bend and that we are going to see it. And I'm like, until America reckons with America and understands its truth. So when people keep saying, this is not who we are, it's who you've always been.
Yeah.
You've just been denied access to that history. Right? It's who America is. Oh, we don't break up families. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
The entire slave trade was built on breaking up families. Right? The entire, breaking down of the Native American population was about breaking down families. Right? Oh, we don't kill people in the streets. What are you talking about? We had to create anti-lynching laws. And people still, a white man can still take the life of a black person on a subway and walk free. So I just, for me, I really just think that America will not recover because it has never fully reckoned with who it is. And I don't, any therapist, any self-care person, any, affirmation will tell you that until you are ready to excavate your own demons and patterns and behavior and be honest about that, that's when healing starts. But you can't heal before then.